And stay tuned if you want to learn more about those things in great detail. Go ahead and get the fellas in here.
We are coming in on Instagram, but we're live over on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube.
All right. I'm hearing a bit of an echo.
Go again.
Yep, I see. That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay. So, yeah, long story short, welcome to the Good Life for everybody on Instagram, Facebook. Chris, where are we at in all the different platforms these days?
Yeah, I
I
know,
can't,
right?
I
Like
can't
it's a
keep track
bunch
of
of
them.
them. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram over here. We're everywhere, guys. We're
That's
everywhere.
hilarious. Where are we at these days? God, we on platypus. Like,
Yeah, exactly. What's the latest one? So yeah, the topic for tonight, I was already mentioned this on Instagram, is recovering from anxiety and depression. This is something very, very, very near and dear to me and my personal experience in life and overcoming some challenges. And it's something I coach on a lot. It's something I think about a lot. So very excited to share some of this with you and to get some feedback from Chris and Kabi. And we'll just have a great conversation as we go along.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. Real quick, I'll jump. Like, I just think for everyone that's watching, share this post, right? Like, I know it's live on YouTube, it's live on Facebook and LinkedIn. Share this, get this to people, because I know for a fact, there's a large percentage of you out there that are struggling with some form of anxiety or depression. I know this for a fact, right? This show tonight, and we chose to go into these specific topics like this so we could really give you guys what you need. But tonight, I think is going to be something that really could set some people free, really give you some tools, some things that you can do to make sure that these things are not overtaking your life. Because again, I've seen it. I work with people on a daily basis that are struggling in these areas of anxiety and depression. We're trying to give you guys some tools and tips to make this thing happen. So share this post, right? Get this to a friend, put it in somebody's DM real quick because this is going to be something that they're going to want to see. All right, but go ahead, Stu. Oh,
and Stu, before you
Kapisha.
take it off, I want to double down on what Chris just said. This might be the most common one, right? In terms of what individuals that will hear this, individuals that will see this are dealing with, individuals that I know are dealing with this. So, guys, you might want to watch this twice, right? You might want to watch this twice. So let me turn it over to Stu and take us on this journey, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, appreciate that, fellas. This is my intent of having this topic is literally to just provide you with different ways of thinking than what you're accustomed to on how to deal with anxiety and depression. And that may ring a light bulb for a lot of people out there who have been following, like mainstream psychology's way of saying how you're supposed to deal with this. I avoided it my whole life. I dabbled in it for a little bit, came back, and I tried to pull all of these experiences together. And for anybody that's as technical or logical, engineering based, med students, like anybody that's that attentive to detail, may really enjoy, as well as a lot of other people, a different way of looking at how to deal with these things. So here's what I want to start off with. And I'm just going to kind of go in like little rounds of me putting some stuff out there and hearing from you fellas. So the first thing I want to focus on is the different types of practices that you can come up with and deal with anxiety and depression. And some of you may wonder why I link these into the same thing. So let me go ahead and just distinguish them in my mind, the way my brain thinks. And you might be able to begin to look at it in this way as well. To me, anxiety is when your thoughts are moving too rapidly. It's fast. It feels out of control. Now, many of you may feel that for a variety of different sensations. I would encourage you to potentially consider that maybe anxiety is this piece that seems to be propelling the engine forward so quickly that you can't even slow down and analyze, absorb, problem solve, come up with a solution for each one of these thoughts because the next one's right there glaring you in the face as soon as you even blink. So anxiety also, I like to think of it as fear of future concerns, something that has not yet occurred that you are worried may happen, or some belief in the present that you feel you don't have control over because of something that happened in the past. Now let's shift to depression. I feel depression is when things in my mind are just so heavy that they feel slow. There's just not the motivation and the energy, and just there's not any of like the usual things that would normally motivate me. Like there have been times when I was super anxious in previous terms of employment, and it actually made me perform extremely well. Many may know it as high functioning anxiety. There are pros and cons to both of these things, but I want to help you figure out how to get a better control of them. So, long story short, I want to start with practices, right? There's 3 stages to the practices that I come up with. There's how to prevent, like when you have the highs and lows in life, how do you prevent the lows? We're human. They're going to happen from time to time, but can we decrease the frequency, like how consistent they happen from once a day to once a week, or from once an hour to once a month? Can we decrease the frequency? And the second is, can we decrease the magnitude? How severe does this feel compared to your baseline and where you want to feel? So there's preventative measures for that. A lot of ways to tap into that, and I'll go into this later. But there's exercise, there's sunshine, there's also different ways to catch yourself when you're spiraling and focusing on your inner narrative, getting a little bit more in touch with your spiritual side. So really, like mind, body, and spirit. I'll get into that later on ways to alleviate, but there's prevention stuff that you can do and put up there. A lot of those habits and routines are very good at preventing things. As far as maintaining, when you are in a turbulent state, whether you feel it to be anxiety or depression or something else just does not feel right, what are the ways that you can deal with yourself and handle yourself and really self-control yourself so you don't make the situation worse? You may feel as though you're not in your right mind. A lot of people I know, they may get very angry, and they use this expression, I see red. And all of a sudden, if they get angry and they see red, they're actually terrified of their own actions. They don't know what they might do. Well, sometimes that happens because of anxiety and depression as well. You may decide to not go to work for a while. You may decide to not perform on your things. Now, what's going to happen if all of a sudden added pressure comes to your situation with work being taken away from you, income being taken away, or a lot of pressure, or like feeling like you let the team down? Like, maintaining when you're in one of these low moments is key to make sure that you don't dig the hole deeper to make it even tougher to get out of. My favorite one on this is twofold. One, zooming out and reminding yourself that what you're going through is temporary. I can go into this in much greater detail, but looking at the timeline as a whole, asking yourself, 6 months ago, 5 years ago, how have I progressed? Is it better? Is it worse? Like, reminding yourself that this is not the entirety of your life. This is just a moment. This is temporary. Secondly, breath work. Every time I have a meditation I give out to this, anybody send me a DM, I got you. I will hook you up with that meditation immediately. It's how I started my day consistently for over a year, and basically trained myself to be able to control my thoughts. And I didn't need any medication prescribed, like just didn't need it. You can build this muscle like you go to the gym to be in shape. So in case you lift a heavy box, or in case you want to go have a sport and be ready for an impact, just like you go to prepare for that, you can use this meditation as well as other things to prepare yourself. You do it consistently. So when the moment comes and you feel like your thoughts are spiraling or things are too loud, you can dial back in. And you do that by focusing on the breath. It's a reset button. It is our reset button, I promise you. So, man, I know that probably resonates a lot with Kavi especially, and Chris from some of the mutual things we talked about, but I cannot emphasize enough breath work when you're trying to maintain and deal with some of this stuff. Finally, there's things that you can do to react, to uplift yourself from when you're down. So we've got prevent, maintain, react. Some of my favorite things that can react are often some of the same things from prevention. How do you get yourself to get back to this routine where you're taking care of yourself in a way that you don't allow yourself to go a certain level of low? There's, like, once again, like, we're only human. It's never going to be sunshine and rainbows the whole time, but you get better and better at navigating it. So it's less frequent and less large in magnitude, less severe at the moment. Some of my favorite reaction exercises are, like I said, getting back to the things that you do to prevent, but more specifically, in these things of your routine that you use to prevent yourself from dipping low, what are some practical measures you can begin to take when you realize you're slipping in your routine? One of the simplest ones to start your morning off, for those that have trouble with getting their morning routine going, to take care of themselves and they feel it slipping and they want to get back into it. This worked for a client of mine like literally 3 days ago. He hadn't done his routine in 6 months, and within 5 days he was back at it after he incrementally got back on schedule. And all he did was take his phone, put it on the other side of the room when his alarm goes off. That was one of the simplest things that he did from a practical measure. We had about 7 other things, but that one right there will get you out of bed. It's so simple. I just have to share with you guys. It gets over dialed in. But secondly, whatever your routine is, you have to find ways to make it easier to do your routine and harder not to do your routine. And you can literally customize that and come up with something for every single thing out there. I do it with people all the time. I do it for myself. So fellas, that's it. Prevent, maintain, react. Different classes of practices. What do you guys think?
Kabir, jump in.
All right. Listen, man. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I wanted to give you the floor first because this stuff right here hits home for me. So I appreciate you letting me go first. Listen, I want to that resonates for me the most is the breath, because I think the breath in a way kind of and if you would restate, you said prevent, maintain, react.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the breath for me covers all three.
Amen.
Right. And it's one of those things that is so incredibly magical in tapping in for periods of time like I'm in right now. When I realize when I'm able to come back to my breath, the more often I'm able to come back to my breath is directly correlated with the level of stress or dis-ease that I feel. Right. And it's not that, I appreciate what you said. It's not that we're not going to feel, we're not going to go up and down. And as you were talking, I was looking for this graphic that I really enjoy, which is just a simple sound wave. That simple sound wave graphic can literally explain so many things. Maybe that's a talk for another day. But one of them is simply kind of how our life goes. Right. That is it. That is our life. Right. When you take energy from now, you have to pay for it later. When you borrow now, you have to pay for it later. When you enjoy it now, you pay for it. So everything travels like this. Everything in the universe travels like this. And the more I can stay present to my breath, the less I'm affected by this. And the more I pay attention to my breath, the more I can cue myself back when I realize that I'm not paying attention to it, right? Or I can utilize it at that point, kind of like, what is it, Inception with the little dreidel spinning thing? That's kind of what the breath is for is it, I don't want to, is it dreidel?
I think it's
I don't know. It's a spinning
top. All right, cool. Spinning top.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Dreidel sounds a little loaded. I don't know why, but it sounds loaded. But spinning top. That is our built-in spinning top. And so that's like a huge piece that I'm taking from what you just shared with us, Stu. And I always have to remind myself, get back to the breath.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part. And obviously being around you gentlemen and could be specifically right, talking about breath and understanding how that is a centerpiece has been important. It's been instrumental for me as well. But Stu, kind of one of the things, so I like how you laid out the prevent, what do we say it again? Prevent, maintain, and react. Right?
React.
Yeah. And so understanding just that like you have control in each of those times, right? Like that's the other side of it, is like you can prevent. There's things you can do if you feel it coming on to prevent. If you already are in it, there's things you can do to make sure that you are subsiding and not allowing it to blow up, right? And then afterwards, like understanding what you can do, right? Like what you can do to continue to make sure that this isn't taking over your life. I think just giving people that awareness to know that you still have control over it. In my experience, so I've often, just in my work, not necessarily said that I've been depressed, but I've been in a depressive state, right? I don't speak over myself depression, right, or anxiety, but like I've been in a depressive state where I've just been a little bit lower than normally what I was, but feeling like that weight, like you said, things just a little bit slower. I felt the same things. And one of the things that I've gone to has been mindset, has been, am I thinking about what I'm thinking about? And I think you said that in the maintaining side, right? But just kind of before you start spiraling out, what are you thinking about, right? Like capturing those thoughts. I really think that's a huge part that people can really kind of dive into when they're going through it. It's like, man, what am I thinking about? What I just talked about, this metacognition. Are you thinking about what you're thinking about? Right. And oftentimes we're not, especially when we're in the midst of some form of anxious state, depressive state. It's like, are you thinking about what you're thinking about? Because I'm pretty sure your thoughts will lead you to why you're in that state. So just let's think about what we're thinking about. That's what I've been able to do. And before I could catch this type of stuff, I would be in a depressive state for a little bit longer, maybe that anxious state a little bit longer. But now I can catch it right away because I'm like, what am I thinking about? What was I thinking about to get me here? Right? What happened before? Because I know what I felt like before. And then I came over here. What was that thought? What happened? What was the catalyst? And I'm so aware of it that I might only be down for, like you said, I might only be down for a day and I'm back out. But before I used to be down for a week. So I think that gives a lot of people that empowering feeling of like, I can take control of this and it doesn't have to affect me as much. So that's kind of what I took from it.
Yeah. Man, I think
it's too,
yeah.
A quick exercise that people at home can try real quick with the breath piece, because you can go to the mind, you can go to the thoughts, or you can go to the body. And I actually prefer to go to the body because my mind be moving too quick, right? Sometimes I'm like, I don't know what it's doing up there. It's kind of crazy, but the body is a lot more reliable. So quick exercise is actually breath holds, right? Like literally expel all the air out of your breath, out of your body. So keep going, keep going, keep going, like all of it. Keep going, keep going. Full exhale and hold for as long as you can. And then when you're coming back up for air, don't gasp for air, but control that air intake. You'd be surprised how quickly you take your mind off of the fact that you're depressed or you in a depressive state, right?
Yeah.
When you can't breathe. Right? So, yeah, it's a quick little exercise.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. We're gonna get to like different ways to alleviate body, mind, spirit. So you've already hit on like one of the main categories there. Like with the breath, I couldn't agree more. Like there's a correlation to, I believe it was in the book Breath by James Nestor, that I believe you've read as well, where he correlates your diaphragm being your second heart and how that's often referred to in different cultures. And really what he's getting at is exactly what Khabib just summarized. Consider the idea that the speed and the control and the however you breathe is related to how your heart beats, which is related to how your brain works. If you're breathing really fast and you're in fight or flight state, I talk about this all the time. Fight or flight state, you're thinking, you're trying to defend, you're basically trying to prevent something bad from happening. We literally evolved with this to keep us from getting like eaten by a tiger in the jungle. So like you're literally fight or flight. You want to control that, you want to stop being in that fearful state, slow your breathing, slow your heart rate, slow your thoughts. So excellent point. And Chris, like as you were talking about this concept of thinking about what you're thinking, you reminded me of something I want to distinguish for others out there that may not be as familiar. And that is, if you're present, you're in what I call flow. It's often called flow by a lot of people. The best freestyling happens when you're flowing. The best artwork, the best dancing, the best, a lot of creative, fun things that you enjoy, just enjoying the moment. That happens in flow when you're not thinking about what you're thinking. So what I'm asking you to do is every once in a while, exit flow or the present moment, or for some of you, maybe you are so tuned into this episode because you're having trouble being in the present moment, but consider the idea that you could just take a moment to think about what you're thinking from an analytical, wanting to understand yourself, wanting to better control how the machine works, so you can go back to flow. So you can flow more, so you can be in the present more. So there's a bunch of different ways to think about this, and I'm a very visual person, so I use math, I use visuals. So anybody that's a scientific background, we can definitely talk, or just people in general if you want to think about this shit differently. Cool. Thank you, fellas. The next thing I want to dive into, this one's kind of vague at the moment. Still working on it. But here's what I got for you at the moment. The different types of anxiety and depression and what their causes are. So some of the really common ones that I often hear about, social anxiety. I feel like that's one of the most talked about on Instagram, on social media. It's kind of ironic that it's the biggest topic on there. Maybe it's because you're always comparing yourself to other people. Let's talk if that's the case. But social anxiety is a massive one in our society today. Probably because we don't feel comfortable speaking our minds or actually being ourselves. We can get into that later. But to me, there's two types. There's the general. There's the what do people think of me? There's my personal life, my family. I view that all as social, as personal, social anxiety. Then there's the professional. What do people think about me as a professional? What do people think about my work product? That type of thing. Then there's performance anxiety. When I go to perform a task or do my job or play this sport or approach this girl, how am I going to do? Like, I'm really fucking worried I'm going to fuck it up. Like, there's all kinds of stuff. That's the more of the performance side. And then from there, I'm sure there's others, but I literally leave it in the other category because for some people, there's just this one thing that they're always anxious about. And that is where you really want to find a way to understand yourself, look under the hood, like potentially seek a third-party opinion. Could be a confidant, your partner, a friend. But whoever it is, I want you to invite them not to give you advice on what to think or what to do. Have them ask you open-ended questions where it's not a yes or no. That's literally my job. And you can literally make other people around you be better at cultivating your own thoughts and understanding of your mind rather than just having a bunch of consultants and you've got all this information overload, which you can just go to the internet and get overloaded there. So if you want to like make your core relationship stronger with these other specifics, with just figuring out how your mind works and anxiety and depression, definitely go to your core group, have them, like, encourage them to ask you open-ended questions. And if you're worried about bias or what they're going to think about you, especially if you're already dealing with social anxiety, potentially seek third party. There are therapists out there. I will personally say that I don't necessarily vibe with therapists as much as I vibe with coaches, but everybody's different. They probably say the same thing about my industry. So just try it out.
Stu, real quick,
Yeah.
what do you say to the person that holds their anxiety and depression to themselves and doesn't feel comfortable reaching out to somebody? How do they, like, what do they have to do to kind of get to that place?
So I think they have to be really, really brutally honest with themselves. And how are their efforts alone going? If they zoom out on the timeline, is it getting less frequent? Is it getting less severe? Are you happy with the direction? Some people I know are happy not being at their, what I would say their best a lot. You know, they're happy not being there a lot less of the time than other people I know. I have very high standards with that. I have extremely high standards with that. This is my life and my time, and I'm going to enjoy it. So for me personally, I take it very seriously. Others may not care. But if you care enough to where you are not satisfied with how you're experiencing life, ask yourself, just try and be really honest. Like, is what I'm doing alone working? If not, definition of insanity, same thing over and over again, same results. Ask a friend. Start there. By all means, I did not seek professional help before I sought help with friends and like really good friends. I'm not talking about fringe friends or acquaintances. I'm talking about people that you could say anything to where you do not feel judgment. Those types of people in your life. Start there. just a nugget. Just see what happens. You actually may be opening the door for them to open up about their anxiety and depression too, or anything. It doesn't have to just be A and D. It could be anything that they want to talk about. It's a muscle learning to become vulnerable. So try that first. If you're not really receiving what you'd like, or you're worried about what they may think of you, consider third party. The best people I could ever recommend to you are the ones that are non-judgmental. They don't push their beliefs on you, and you feel safe talking to them. Period. It's an experience. So, great question. With these different types that I just laid out, like the social, whether it's personal or professional, the performance, just the other specific ones that people get hung up on, a very specific topic or issue they have, miscellaneous. Each one of those, not only are they classes, but they're ways for you to help filter out what you are feeling as anxiety, depression, anything that's not positive. Filter it into these categories. Just begin to break it down. If you're having a tough time figuring out why you're feeling anxious, start here and narrow it down. Or just start at the most recurring thought. Like there's a couple different ways, but what I'm trying to get you to think about is you got to figure out a way to stop it for being this crazy cloud of emotion that's going in all kinds of directions, and you got to be able to synthesize it and break it down. And I always paraphrase Einstein's quote, but if you can't put it into words, you don't understand it well enough. So you have to be able to slow down and put it into words. The breath is a great way to do that. Thank you, Kabir. What do you guys think?
Kabir, you got it? Round robin? Me? Okay, cool. I mean, honestly, man, understanding that people experience anxiety in different ways. Again, a little bit on the personal side, but really just a lot of what I deal with sitting down with people. And the reason that I brought up that question of like, what do you do when you don't have anyone, right? Or meaning you don't have anyone that you can reach out to. Well, if that's the case, that's a lot of the people that I deal with. They're like, I don't feel comfortable reaching out, right? I don't feel comfortable. I don't have that friend in my life, right? That actually can speak honestly to me without judgment and all those things. So this is just something I'm going to carry. And people have to understand that you can't carry that baggage. You can't carry this by yourself forever, for the long haul. It's going to make things so much worse. So like Stu said, right, making sure that you're thinking like, I gotta be brutally honest with myself. Is this working? Do I want to get rid of this? Is this something that that's going to serve me moving forward in whatever life I'm trying to get to? You happen to be watching The Good Life. So that means we're going to assume that that's where you're headed. If that's the case, then you have to ask yourself, is this serving me to get there? And if not, then these are some of the tips and tools that we need to be able to get rid of it. And talking to someone, I think, is incredibly important. So that's a big point, man.
Yeah, for me, guys, I'm in that boat of keeping it to myself, of not really reaching out. But you'll be surprised when you do reach out at the people that respond, and the people that lend a hand, or the people that you may have not expected them to hold that space for you. That'll hold that space for you, And if you're looking for, the therapist type situation, and maybe that's not right for you, because I know culturally, speaking for people from my community, like the idea of a therapist is really bizarre, right? And so seek a coach. Stu's right there, right? Hit him up on Instagram, and I can definitely attest to the fact that this man holds space very, very well, regardless of what background you come from. And I definitely say, listen, that's a very safe space right there to start. Don't start with me now. No, I'm just playing. I'm playing. But honestly, no. Like you have somebody right there. Hit him up. Like, he's offering all this stuff for. I mean, like, shoot, he should be 10x in his price here pretty soon. Honestly, so reach out. It might just be, maybe you just need one conversation. Maybe you just need 2 or 3 conversations, right? Maybe that's all you need. Some people don't need a 10-year therapist relationship. Some people just need like, oh, okay, this guy understands where I am, and a couple conversations may really do it. So as somebody who is not wired to really reach out, right? if you have friends, go for it. But if you need a third party, you feel like it's out the door and it's not going to come back to bite you or something like that, reach out to plenty of coaches here with great hearts, and you can start with Stu.
Man, I'm honored. Thank you very much. Probably my biggest pride and joy in like life pursuit, especially when it comes to my work, is it's not my place to judge other people. It's just not. So if you don't want to be judged, or you just want to feel space talking to somebody, I got you. And Kabi, thank you so much for that, man. So Chris, there was one thing you mentioned, but John kind of got me in the feels right there. Kabi, excuse me. He kind of brought me back to the start of our relationship right there.
So much so, that's hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know what I was
back to our roots.
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what I was about to respond to what you said, Chris, but
it's all good. Move on.
Yeah. Yes, I remembered it. So there was this one piece where you said, you don't want to live with this your whole life. I could not agree more. And for those individuals that feel like it's the noble thing to live with this your whole life, because you want to provide and you want to protect and you want the best for your kids, I would like you to consider the idea that's what's best for their kids is to have a parent that's mentally healthy that can raise their kid to be mentally healthy. It is very tough to do that when you are not. So please, like, I get it. You want to put the team on your back. Part of that is doing the work and facing the demons. All right, so up next, ways to alleviate. And I'm just going to go through this really quick because there's a long list, and as I kept doing this, I kept thinking about more and more. I'm probably going to come up with a PDF of all these things, so hit me up if you're interested in that. Ways to alleviate, I break this down into 3 classes, like we do a lot of times when it comes to health here, because this is a part of health, guys. It's no joke. Body, mind, and spirit. So body, and then Kabi, I'm going to open up the floor for you to have a pretty solid touch on this since you're the physical guru here. So I break this down into movement, nutrition, stored tension in your body, and consequently, which was very eye-opening to me as I begun to do this type of work and see a massage therapist and all of a sudden be talking about trauma as I was getting different parts of my body worked out, having visuals of things that traumatized me come up with different parts of my body getting worked out. So now I can safely say not only is it stored tension in your body, there is stored trauma in your body. So there's a lot of things you can do. And very importantly in this, of course, is the breath, sunshine. Kabi, I'll let you add a couple more on there.
Absolutely, man. We talk about the 7 doctors, right? And I think it's incredibly important to build the foundation, right? To build this foundation, because everything we're talking about, why not hit it with everything we have? Some of these stuff, like we have modern terms for them, anxiety, depression, and a lot of this stuff. But the truth of the matter is we're just that those concepts are really new. But these feelings and states of beings have existed for a very long time. And I simply summarize all of it into you're not at ease, right? If we are at complete ease, none of those things would exist in my opinion. And a lot of that, guys, is I believe is really taking the opportunity to tap into the foundational, which is connecting to Mother Earth, whether it be grounding, right? Actually, grounding is a huge one. All right, whether it's getting our energy up from the sunlight, whether it's breathing correctly, we've already talked about that. Whether it's consuming the right substances into our mouth, because there's other types of consumption, and let's talk about that. What you're listening to, what you're seeing on a day-to-day basis. Listen, if you live in LA, all right, and you're constantly seeing helicopters going over, guess what? Your sense of dis-ease or anxiety is going to be a little higher. Right. So these are the things that we kind of ignore, that our environment, both outside of us and inside of us, and taking care of that stuff. So these are easy things we can do. So if this is something you've been struggling in for a really long time, take those steps, right? While you're also taking some of these other steps as well. Like why not? You know, let me just briefly share my story. This is something I couldn't really tell you which one of the categories it was. It was depression, anxiety. It was all of them, man. I was just in a bad state. I was in a bad state for a very, very long time. I left home to go to college, a pretty angry individual, and I was just hurt. I was hurt by all types of things in my life, all types of things from my parents, all types of stuff that was going on. And I to the point where I realized that I needed to seek help. So I sought help. I went through the school, to therapists and and got prescribed medication and all this stuff. And it just wasn't working for me. Therapy was weird. I didn't really feel comfortable fully exposing my family situation and what was going on. The medication made me feel great for like a day. And then it started making me feel terrible. And getting off of it was even worse. So then I turned to exercise. So I was training pretty aggressively for a long period of time, and it worked, but not fully. It was like 75%. And the way I was training was actually now hindering my body. My joints were feeling it. Everything was just kind of like, oof, you can't just be going out, just, squatting 405 just because it makes you feel less anxious, bro. Like that can't last forever, right? The thing that really, really, really made the difference for me was turning my attention to my consumption, specifically food, but all consumption. The type of music I was listening to. I listen to far less certain types of hip hop now. I listen to far less because it makes me anxious. I realize the actual rhythm and the beats elevates me somehow. And yeah, it gets me hyped, gets me ready to go, and I'm hyped, blah, blah, blah. But like, I can't be like that all the time. So I listen to different sounds now, right? I listen to the sound of the rain, the sound of nature when I study and do things now. And it makes a huge difference, right? The shows I was watching like horror shows and watching all these terrible shows that has like things that makes my heart jump all the time. Like I had to cut that stuff out, or at least limit it significantly. All right. And then the food that I was eating a lot of starches. I was eating a good amount of animal, right? With probably didn't come from great. I didn't know where they came from. I don't know what type of life they had, what type of hormones they were having. And it was definitely having an effect on me. So when I took a long period of time to cleanse my gut and to reset my gut, and then to change the things that I was consuming, I was literally having emotional like outbursts. Like I remember multiple times sitting in places by myself on a fruit fast or feast or a juice feast where emotions that I suppressed for so long would just come out of nowhere. And it was like this as things were coming out of that other end of me as well. But it was incredible, and I would encourage everybody to give it a shot and to really like do it for yourself, but also do it for the people around you, because what I really got out of it is I started to relate to the people around me so much better, right? They were not walking on eggshells around me. And so that was totally worth it, man. So yeah, that's my personal story. That's why I'm such an advocate for really paying attention to what are you consuming, what are you doing with your time, along with all the other things as well, all the other things that we're discussing today as well. Attack it from all angles.
Huge.
That's all I got, guys.
No, that was huge. I mean, I don't have anything to say to that. Stu, go ahead. That was everything.
Yeah. Well, I would like everybody to hear the passion with which Khabib has for how important your physical health is on your mind, and not even that, the other category of what you're consuming. When you talked about what you're consuming, you can really break that down into the same thing. What are you consuming, body, mind, and spirit wise? For mine, man, I used to cringe around certain shows that were just so dark and untrustworthy and gory, and it's just like, why am I exposing myself to this? Why am I allowing myself to feel empathy to this energy that does not just leave me? You ever been scared? You ever had a nightmare after a horror movie? It's not gone away. Like, it's still there. Now, some of you may be like, this is my way to feel alive. This excites me. It wakes me up. I'm sorry. Like, there are more fun things you can do to feel alive and get out there and be creative. Perhaps you should take a look under the hood at why your only moment of feeling alive is when you see gore and trauma and murder. Like, please.
And honestly, Stu, I think people don't even realize the lasting effects of that, right? It goes kind of back to that ignorance of like being in the matrix, you know what I mean? Like, just, you don't even know how that stuff correlates. That's why we're talking about this stuff, and I'm sure hopefully people are picking it up. But like, it's so important just to be aware. Like, did you know that what you listen to affects the other parts of your life? Like, did you know that? Because I feel like at one point in my life, I didn't know that, right? I didn't understand that. I didn't, since we're kind of given the stories, like, I don't watch any TV. Like, I almost kind of went all the way to this point where I'm like really weird. Like, I can't even tell you a show. Like, I can't, outside of what I would see on Facebook or Twitter or somebody talking about it. Like, I can't tell you the last movie I watched, the entire thing, outside of like a Disney movie. And even then, like, just with my daughter, I probably only watched half of it and then started moving around and doing something. I literally don't take in and consume anything of like television that you could watch. I used to only watch ESPN. Pre all of this mindset and knowing that like, hey, what I'm consuming is a big part of my life. I used to just watch SportsCenter. I used to watch the first 5 hours of SportsCenter. If anyone remembers like really how like the lineup went, you wake up in the morning and it's just SportsCenter, just repeated one after the other. I don't even know if they still do this. Then it's like you got a little news break, and then you got PTI and Around the Horn, and right, like all those. I literally just kept my TV on ESPN all the time. That would be everything that I consumed. And then, like could be said, hip hop. So like that was my life, right? So when I really started to take into like this understanding of like, I need to be filling my mind with other things, because this isn't getting me to where I really want to be. Then I started paying attention, like, oh, like the more that I pay attention to this, the more I just want to, like, honestly, live an athlete lifestyle. That's what I started thinking about, right? I used to want to live an athlete lifestyle. And I think that was coming from me taking in this information and taking in the sports talks and all that stuff. And that kind of became my life. And then once you get introduced to the information, things switch, things change. So I really think it's one of those things where many times people don't even know that what they're consuming is causing these things. It's causing it, right? It's like, it's not people. I talk to people a bunch and they're like, I don't know why I feel so bad. Like, have you looked at, right? Like, have you looked at your life? Like, do you understand what's happening, right? I don't know why I'm so tired. Do you look at your life? Like, you just told me you spend 7 hours a day looking at a screen. That's what you told me. You said you watch TV for this amount of time, and you're on social media for this amount of time, and you're at work in front of your computer on this amount of time. And you wonder why you don't have energy, like you don't get outside, you don't see, right? Like, there's so much that people just don't understand is the actual cause for those things. I think that's what we're waking people up to.
Yeah. So well put.
I was one of those guys, by the way. ESPN. I feel like they literally just like will create a whole host of noise, and it'll get, it may not get everybody, but some section is gonna get. It's like a prototype, right? It's like, I'm the type that's gonna watch ESPN and listen to hip hop. He's the type, or she's, it's like when I realize those things, I'm always like, God, I'm almost insulted. Like, God, they got me. They really got me. Right? They really got me. Yes, I like seeing the ball go through the hoop. It's great. It's freaking great. But yeah, I'm totally with that. That's so funny.
Yeah. And I think, you're kind of hinting at the idea of the fact that there's underlying intent or purpose to a show. And some people, a lot of people will highlight the fact that there's like a Hollywood bias, and that's such a taboo thing. We're probably about to get deleted right now. But like, if every single storyteller has a message he's trying to convey to you, and sometimes if it's like a specific, let's take poetry for example. Sometimes with poetry, it's hidden, it's aloof. You have to feel it, experience it, think about it to kind of get the sensation they're talking about. Couldn't people do that with movies and TV shows? And how are we supposed to know what messages are trying to get across to us? Are we thinking about how we feel and how we take this theoretically, hopefully, fake reality in front of us and say, how is that consciously and subconsciously affecting how I view the world? Do I like this change? Do I agree with this change? Do I just say that because my favorite actor that's kind of funny talks about a certain topic from a certain perspective, well, it's on TV. They're hinting at a real topic in current affairs. It must be true. This must be what it's like. No, look at your surroundings. Go out, walk around the world. Anyways, I can go on that rant for a long time. I do want to get to, I think, the rest of this. So for body and mind, we heard about the what do you call them, John? Or Khalid? Man, that really you really brought me back, dude.
No, don't worry, bro. In like a week, everybody's gonna be calling me that, so you'll be good. You'll be in good company.
True. So the 7 doctors.
Yeah, the 7 doctors of nature.
Cool.
You can Google that, by
Seven
the way,
doctors of
anybody.
nature.
7 doctors of nature.
Yeah, and taking care of your health translates to the mind and vice versa. I promise. So, second class here, mind. I'm just going to break down a couple of different things for you to think about. So this is how I mentally rearrange the pieces, rearrange the flow, like just figure out what's going on in my life, right? So 1, analysis of my inner dialogue. What am I saying to myself? Word choice, but also the tone. Whose voice does this remind me of if I don't like it? Where did it come from? Was this a strange moment from a teacher, from a coach, from someone we looked up to, from a parent, from whatever, from the news, from social media? Where is this coming from? Do I agree with this, or like is this just interjected into me? Because that, I promise, like that does happen. Like when people say things around you, like you become one of them. Jim Rohn, you become the average of the 5 people around you. The same thing applies to news and social media. Like, be aware of what you're surrounding yourself with, because it's going to pop up these little voices in your head, and that guides you to think certain things. Are you aware of that? Are you looking under the hood? Finally, when you're with your inner dialogue, what are you generalizing? For anybody that's in a less than positive mental state, you may be generalizing that you're always down, that you always feel anxiety, that you always feel depression. I promise, perfection does not exist. We are human. There is a percentage of the time you feel that way, and it's important to get specific on when that is, so you can measure to see what swings the needle or the numbers in a favorable direction. Get specific with your generalizations. Catch yourself. Don't even let yourself say them. Use specific words to specifically quantify how much, how severe, and also just like what your beliefs are in general. I would just say be mindful of generalizations. Rewriting your sentences. So after we talk about the tone, after we talk about the generalizations, the word choice, rewrite them. Go back. That's what it was, Chris. There was something else too. Pause, rewind, slow-mo, fast forward, whatever. Just like you're watching a movie, you can train yourself to do that with your thoughts. They're there. You have memory of them. You just haven't spent a lot of time thinking about them very much. But when you use the breath and other things, like getting into the body and just, analyzing and developing a self-awareness for what your thoughts are, now you can go back and you can edit. You can say, hey, I said this to myself, but I'm going to build a new habit. I'm going to say this to myself instead. And I'm going to say it not like that tone, because that was an asshole to myself. I'm going to say it in a more self-soothing and encouraging, like it's my favorite thing to talk about. Like just anybody that's kind of thinking inner child may be woo-woo, I'll give you a real world example. If you're going to be encouraging a toddler to feel better, how would you talk to them? Would you yell at them because they're upset, because they're sad? Nope. Why do you do it to yourself? Give yourself permission to go back and rewrite some of those sentences. Finally, logic versus emotion. This is a very abstract opposition type thing that is fun to play with. There are things you feel in the moment, and there are things that are more like logical or rational or long term. Use those to bounce off each other. To, like, when you feel like you're being too emotional, invite yourself to feel that emotion, but also use rationale to soothe you as you experience it. You don't need to hide it, stuff it down, not feel it, but you can at least help maintain what you're going through by just zooming out on the timeline. We talked about some of that stuff earlier. And finally, as you're doing all this analysis and building this self-awareness, you're going to want to be looking for causes, and you're going to want to be looking for patterns on what changes things. So that would be a lot of different ways to look at the mind. I know we're running super short on time, so I'm also going to mention, when you want to try and alleviate anxiety from the spiritual side, meditation, yoga, like focusing on whatever, like for me personally, I'm not religious, but if you are religious, getting in touch with that. If you're more spiritual, getting in touch with that. The more connected you feel to that thing, whether it's God, Allah, whatever, the universe, the more you do things that align with that, and the more connected you feel with that, you're really going to help soothe yourself. Finally, medicating. And I say medicating because there's prescribed medication, and then there's self-medicating. I'm going to treat you like an adult. I expect you to be able to figure out what your level of self-discipline is and self-control. There are plenty of things out there legalized in Florida, more so across the U.S. now. Cannabis, whether it be CBD or THC, there's microdosing. You hear about all these buzzwords. There are people out there that really believe in this stuff, so much so they get certifications. They help people deal with trauma. This is a real thing. I can introduce you to people. But just know that you do not just have to go with prescribed medication. You can begin to develop more ownership in what you consume by trying things with people you trust. Keyword there. With people you trust, from a source you trust. Just like anything else, you should shop around. You should be careful of what you consume. But find ways to try things if what you're doing isn't working. If you've been prescribed opioids or anything else that is just destroying your body and causing an addiction that the FDA approves of, and it's not working, why don't you try something else? Why don't you try the thing that for some reason has been illegal for so long, spoken up for so long, and finally we're beginning to realize that there are health benefits. Wow, you're telling me all those crazy people were correct since the 60s? So just open your mind to trying different types of things. And so yeah, we talked about mind, spirit, medicating. Would love to hear y'all's closing comments either on that or a bit, wider, whatever comes to mind.
Real quick, I'm gonna share what Aaron just put in there. He said meditation saved him when the medication fell short. He said he took everything from Xanax to Ativan to marijuana to try to cope with the anxiety and depression. Very little results long term, but meditation is something that he found helped him, right? So again, a lot of people out there probably dealing with similar things, and just like Stu said, try things out. Don't just have one, okay, I'm going to take this thing and it's going to be it. You have to try. You have to figure out what's going to be the best thing for you. I'm sure there's no one size fits all. There's no, right, I did this, so it should help everybody. There are some things you probably heard today that can help everyone, that are some basic things. However, you got to try it out. You got to test. You got to figure out what's going to work for you. It sounds like Aaron did just that with meditation. So kudos to him on that one.
Yeah. On that note, Aaron. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, because for me personally, after having tried a lot of things, including THC, meditation and breath work was like what felt to be like the final major piece in the puzzle for me. So I tried a lot of things before that, a lot of what we talked about tonight, but that one in particular is massive. It's literally you spending time with your thoughts and trying to harness and understand them and love them. That is an important part of it. Whether it's good or bad, you have to show it respect and honor it in order to move past it or digest it. Could be.
No, you guys said it all. I think that's a huge part. Thanks for sharing, Aaron. I think it's huge. Meditation, breath work, posture, consumption, it's all in the same boat. I think the more of those things you tap into, the more powerful each one of them becomes. They kind of complement each other. If your consumption is right, and you're able to watch your breath, and you put that in meditation practice, and you're able to move your body and dislodge all these emotions that have been stuck in the spiritual sense, in the mental sense, in the physical sense. I say go for it all. I really don't believe there's a magic pill. I don't think there's a magic method. I don't think there's a magic anything. I think all of those things work together along with other things as well. So, take it all on. Take it all on. And if you are struggling with this, I just want you to send this message. This is a special episode for you. If you are struggling with something like this, know that you're not alone. This is not it's super common. Like, if we could read minds, we'll realize how common this is. But that's because we live in an environment that's not built to keep us at ease, right? We're not built. It's just not compatible. It's continuously putting us into disease. And I think it's incredibly important. So thanks for prepping this today, Stu. You helped a lot of people today, and I hope you guys will take at least one thing from this today and implement it in your life.
Absolutely. And I'll second that, Stu. Awesome job. For everyone that's listening. Again, I know I know so many people struggling with this stuff. So because there's so many people, you just know you're not alone. No, you're not alone. And there's people there to help. Call Stu, hit him up on Instagram or wherever you want to find him. Just reach out to someone, have a conversation, try new things, guys. This is about getting to the good life, right? To the life that you are designing, where you are fulfilled, where you have hope, you're happy, you have all of your desires and all the things that you want in life, internally and externally. You have them. These are some of the things we got to clear out of the way in order to get there, right? So, Stu, I'll let you wrap it up for the day, man.
Appreciate you. Thanks, fellas. Yeah, I think there's two things I want to leave everybody with, and the first kind is there's 7+ billion, approaching 8 soon, people on this planet. That's all that same number of different minds, and they all work differently to some degree. Like, some people have a lot of things in common, but like the way, like, this is not a linear thing, how your brain works. That's why a lot of us struggle to grapple with it sometimes. It doesn't, it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody thinks and feels differently. It is up to you, more so than anyone else, to figure out how you operate and how you want to build things in your body, mind, and spirit to where you feel your best and you create your best and you perform your best and you find peace. So that's the first thing. So it's up to you. There's ownership there. And that's why I keep my practice extremely custom. So we focus on exactly how you want to deal with it and how you think about it, not how, screw it, psychology tells you should think about it. That's one option. That's one option. It's not the only option. Also beware of diagnosing yourself or fully embodying what someone tells you to diagnose and believe about yourself. Second thing, and I'm just going to make this a plug. So if you're looking for somebody that you want to open up to, that's not going to judge you, that you're not going to have to worry about them knowing the same people you do, third party, whatever. You want confidentiality, you want a safe space. But most importantly, you want someone that actually has experienced all of the bullshit and the negativity and the self-talk and the shaming and just all of it, the grossness of it all. Like, out of everybody I know, have been the most determined to understand it and then make it my life mission to help you understand it for yourself. It is my honor to have this and to hold this space. It meant so much Kabir, thank you for saying that. I take holding space extremely seriously. I love and respect you just like I love and respect myself. I want the best for you. If you want help, I am here. So, with that being said, appreciate everybody paying attention to this. We are here to put out value in the good life. That's it. And what's happening in your mind is part of the good life, no matter what materialism or TV or whatever. You're living up here, man, or you're living throughout your body, whatever you want to look at it. But you gotta, if that's not peaceful, then everything in the external will not fully be able to provide you with that. So, all right, I guess that's all I got. So yeah, closing comments. Anybody? We're good.
That's it. I think we're good to go. For those of you that are watching on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, you see the banner on the bottom, bit.ly/email TGL. That gets you on the email list, because again, we got big stuff coming up in 2022. We want to continue to give you guys the tools, the tips, all the things you need to design the life that you want. So bit.ly/email TGL. Jump on the email list, and we're going to start to get you this information in your emails. And then, like I said, we got some big stuff coming up in 2022. So until next week, guys, signing off for another week of the good life. Enjoy. Take care.
Take care, guys.